Defiont on digital assets. Welcome to your UK and European update. Before I get into that, I want you to get your head around this.
The state of affairs throughout the world is such that we're going to need a solution like an XRP for liquidity purposes sooner rather than later. So the question is then, okay, we've magically resolved it. Where does the price go? It's easy to project that it's a double-digit number. So I think it immediately shoots up to a $10, potentially $20. The wild card to me is that there is actually a deal to be done among the central banks and governments to basically have XRP work as the world's bridge currency, a neutral asset that can be traded between the central banks. If that's what occurs, it's back to what we were discussing earlier. It's got to cover kind of all the money. And I think you're looking at a range that XRP would settle on agreement. So this would happen instantaneously, somewhere between $10,000 and $35,000 a coin. And our lives will be, maybe the same, maybe different. I don't know. Probably a little different.
Now that was a recent interview conducted by James Rule XRP with very well respected and renowned energy deal maker and author and lecturer and legal scholar Jim Valley. Nothing we say at Defiont constitutes financial advice at all. It is merely for educational purposes. But for those of us that hold XRP, let's just say we know what we hold. And it is certainly clear that the value it holds is in its ultimate utility. Next, going back to several articles I wrote back in 2020, I talked about the dangers of NIRP, negative interest rate policy, and the damage that would cause generally to the whole financial system. I also talked about it being as the great wealth confiscation. This was set against the backdrop of the IMF working paper, breaking through the zero lower bound. And essentially, this was a discussion piece about what would happen if the world went negative, i.e. if we took interest rates below zero. Now, I contended at the time central banks had destroyed currency. The currency had no value. It had no real intrinsic value. So as you can see here, negative interest rates, that is charging you for holding money in the banking system, is designed to get you to take your money out and spend it in order to create inflation, i.e. money velocity, because at the moment there is none, and central bankers are scared of deflation. All their financial engineering, they cannot create any inflation. So if you think about it, it only took the central bank fraternity 100 years to destroy money altogether. And so as you can see, the deflationary spiral showed in this diagram depicts exactly what's happening now and what you'll see moving forward. So the central banks are desperate to try and create inflation, and negative interest rate policy is one way they feel that they can actually do this. Now the thing is, if people are unaware of this kind of wealth transfer, some people are going to be really exposed to what comes next. And to that end, I think Richard Kiyosaki said it best when he said, the next great transfer of wealth will not take place as a result of a conspiracy, but by ignorance. And again, this is not financial advice, but certainly if you understand what negative interest rates will do, you'll certainly have a plan to try and react accordingly. Turning to the European Central Bank, as we see, Executive Board member Fabio Panetta said a digital euro might be the innovation that sees negative interest rates pass directly to consumers. And whilst this is not intended to be an I told you so moment, but at Defiont we did tell you so. So as you can see, ex-ECB head Mario Draghi all but confirms this. He recently stated negative interest rates are destroying Europe's finances, driving demand for cryptocurrency. And of course, that's not news for us here on Defiont, but certainly for the 99% of the population, many of whom are totally unaware of this digital asset ecosystem that's playing out before their very eyes. Not financial advice, just merely education. If we look at some of the visuals and some of the charts, you can see the gains that are being made for those who are actually investing in this space. So as you can see, Bitcoin 482% returns on a weekly basis. You've got Ethereum up 1,176%, XRP up 639, and many more. It's certainly green across the bourses, but again, things that go up can come down. But for those of us that are longer term investors, we don't worry about the day-to-day fluctuations and volatility. We think about the longer term plan that will make sure that we benefit from this paradigm shift.
So what else should investors be aware of? I know everyone wants to get a quick hit on investments. Something's only trading at a couple pennies and then, you kind of have this crowd mentality trying to bid it up, but there are actual use cases with different types of digital assets.
Sure, there's a lot of use cases. So every day, billions in value is being transferred around the world on stable coins and other crypto assets. And I think, that really comes back to what's important in the crypto market is that there's a lot of mentality of trying to make a lot of money fast. The reality is that usually ends poorly. The best way to make money in crypto is slowly over a long period of time. And when you look at the best investors in crypto, it's because they had the conviction to not only get into crypto, but to stay in that position for a long period of time. And I think that's the number one thing that I would point out to institutions and to retail investors today. Come on in, join the party, but you need to plan to be here for a long time.
Especially if you're in the believer of the technology. Peter, it's great to meet with you. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at NASDAQ.
Looking at CoinMarketCap today, as you can see, it's a sea of green and there is an uptrend on most of the digital assets. But like I say, if people are looking into intraday trading, that's not what we do here. We tend to look for the long term and see where the value and the utility lies in this ecosystem that is digital financial assets. So the question I would ask is, what does it all mean? Well, for those of us that know and are aware, I'll leave that to your imagination. Next, moving to Switzerland, the Bank for International Settlements. And to further put some credibility into this momentum of digital assets and cryptocurrencies, I came across this recent white paper called Ready, Steady, Go, the results of the third survey on central bank digital currency. And I guess if you take a peek inside, what you find is information on the payments in the pandemic era. There's still this uncertainty and people are still holding cash. But of course, there is a move towards contactless payments in all retail outlets, and payments definitely are moving in the retail space towards digital. The world of digital assets is expanding in the central bank community, and also so is the BIS.
Did you know there's a central bank of central banks? And this is the Bank of International Settlements, or BIS, based in Switzerland. The BIS is wholly owned by 63 other central banks, one of which is the Bank of England. Now, the BIS has two principal activities: economic analysis and banking. In 2019, it was decided that the BIS would expand its operations, so it is opening what it calls innovation hubs in 4 new locations. But what surprised me is that I couldn't find much mention of this in mainstream press. A statutory instrument was issued in the last few days to put the BIS, its governors and staff on the immunity from prosecution list. The bank and its staff will pay no tax here, will be immune from prosecution, and the UK shall guarantee to the BIS, including its BISIH London Centre, the autonomy and freedom of action necessary to carry out its official activities. And also, the premises shall be inviolable. No official of the UK or person exercising any public authority, whether administrative, judicial, military or police, shall enter the premises unless permission to do so has been given by the General Manager of the BIS, the Deputy General Manager of the BIS, the head of the BISIH London Centre, or their duly authorised representative notified to the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office Protocol.
Staying in Switzerland, the key takeaways on digital currencies from the Davos agenda, where the great and the good all convene together to plot out their next move. On a recent memo sent to all its members on digital currencies, whether these are central bank issued or not, they are poised to have an impact on the financial system. And of course, we've been reporting on that for many months here on Defiont. And what you should find in the coming future is the majority of central banks will be moving towards a CBDC's a central bank digital currency. And as we spoke about before, if we're going to go negative taking negative interest rates to the retailer, then these impacts are going to be very, very profound. Central banks now see this as their opportunity to get skin in the game in this whole digital asset space. This ecosystem has given them a lease of life to once again command and rule over the money supply. Next, what we are seeing now is bank after bank after bank are scrambling to get into this digital asset cryptocurrency ecosystem. And while central banks have stolen a march, the traditional banking sector is figuring out how it can have its skin in the game. We're seeing a massive move by the banking sector to want to custody cryptocurrencies. Big banks are now announcing plans to enter the crypto custody on an almost daily basis, with the Bank of New York Mellon, the world's largest custodian bank, joining the party earlier this week. And whilst we're talking outside of Europe and the UK, I think this is absolutely profound because Deutsche Bank, the globe's systemically riskiest financial institution, is also joining in the custody race. It too wants to offer institutional grade hot cold storage solutions with insurance grade protection. And of course, whilst no specific cryptocurrencies or tokens are mentioned, if we know about Deutsche Bank, it's all of the money that they're interested in. The digital asset custody platform would be launched in stages, and this would eventually provide clients with the ability to buy and sell digital assets. So for me, this is just confirmation of this enormous surge, this paradigm shift into the digital assets ecosystem. The impacts will be profound on all our daily lives. And for those who've not yet understood what's about to come, let's just say 2021 will be the year of the digital asset. And one of the questions has to be, are you ready to take on the challenge of what will be coming in the fourth industrial revolution? Well, that's it from me. I'm Defiont on digital assets, so until next time, I will see you in the next video. Like and subscribe, and if you care, please share.